Hi, this is Gil Cargill. Thanks so much for attending my webinar today. If you have any questions or would like some follow-up, feel free to type them into the chat box on your screen. In the next 30 minutes or so, I'm going to show you what I and my associates do to help our clients design, develop, and implement more productive sales processes. You see, I believe that the challenge today isn't necessarily with the salespeople, but more often than not, sales blues can be cured by addressing the sales process. I'm going to show you how our clients increase their top line revenue by 36%. I'm going to show you how we lower the cost of sales and, most importantly, create a sales process that provides management with predictable and profitable results. Let's get going. First, I'd like to declare that you can't build a world-class sales force without a world-class sales process. It's all about the process. Fix the process and people issues will tend to go away. I've been a sales VP, a virtual sales VP, since 1978. I've helped 7,000 companies design, develop, and implement more effective, repeatable, and scalable sales processes. As a result, we've trained thousands of salespeople. I've been acknowledged as a keynote speaker and a sales process expert, and you're looking at just some of the logos and magazine covers or awards that I've garnered over these past almost 40 years. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how changing the process will affect your top and bottom line. But first, I want to introduce the concept of a virtual VP of sales. I and my associates have dozens of years of personal sales management and executive sales management success in our resumes. We're the men and women that small to medium businesses need to grow their top line, but unfortunately, they can't afford to hire any one of us full-time. You see, as a virtual VP of sales, we do everything except show up physically on site every day. As a result of implementing a repeatable process, the cost of sales go down, marketing ROI goes up, and most importantly, you gain the peace of mind of knowing that your dream of entrepreneurial success will come true because a man or woman who's been there or done that is working at your side but not on your payroll. And most importantly, our services are affordable by all companies. Let's take a look at some of the ways in which we will help you overcome the frustrations that are making the man on your screen look like a crazy person. First of all, if your sales team is overpaid for underperformance, unfortunately that's not unusual, but we'll fix that. If your team misses its forecast and provides you with excuses, not new revenue, we'll fix that. A new repeatable and scalable sales process takes an unpredictable funnel and turns it into reliably predictable and profitable. If your cost of sales are going up, if your sales team is making you crazy, you need to hand off sales management responsibilities to a virtual sales VP. Just for attending today, I'm going to give you my Sales Manager's Toolkit. This contains some of the templates, guides, and forms that we use to implement these new, more effective selling processes. I want to make it easy for you to implement these ideas. But the first step in any new engagement is to conduct an assessment. We do this because we want to know what's broken before we start fixing anything. I'm going to rattle off some of the things that need to be benchmarked in order for you to know exactly where you are and what needs to be fixed and in what priority. The first thing we look at is the amount of time available to the team for following up. We also look at the number of relationships that they maintain. TOMA is a concept that stands for top of mind awareness. You see, if the customers aren't aware of the results that you and or your company will produce, then you can't believe that you can compete for their business. Before a face-to-face or phone meeting occurs, the prospect must have TOMA, or top of mind awareness, regarding the valuable results that you produce. We benchmark the number of marketing touches, whether or not you have a customer retention program in place, And how leaky is your funnel? In other words, what percent of your leads are pursued until they buy and or expire? What's your funnel capacity? And marketing footprint refers to how many names get marketing touches from you on a regular basis. I also want you to benchmark your selling time. In the toolkit that I mentioned a moment or two ago, you'll find a time and task analysis. Just follow the instructions, and that will tell you how your team stacks up to the pie chart on your screen. This pie chart was made up of approximately 400 companies that we've worked with over the last several years. As a benchmark or starting benchmark, we have found that the average business-to-business salesperson spends 34% of their day doing non-sales administrative tasks. One of the ways that a new, repeatable, and scalable sales process will affect this company is much of the yellow slice of the pie will be turned dark blue or light blue. And it's pretty easy to see that if we were to increase the amount of dark blue or light blue in this pie graph, you would have a dramatic increase in sales revenue, increased selling time, and increased sales activity, and most importantly, inject accountability. You will have a dramatic increase in the top line. Because all sales forces are different, we had to develop a proprietary sales effectiveness evaluation. This is done online, and it evaluates the entire team's process. It is not a test that ascertains your aptitude or attitude, but what we're looking for is how many sales calls are made, what kind of calls are made, what the conversion ratios are, etc. So in about a 10 or 15 minute questionnaire, your team gives us information, we crunch the numbers and show you where the starting points are and how we can move forward. Another part of the assessment is to benchmark the sales IQ of your team. That's the brand name of an online assessment that we utilize to benchmark the sales knowledge of your team. We identify their strengths and weaknesses regarding sales knowledge. Are they geniuses, or do they need a lot of training? It also identifies what type of training is needed that will increase their proficiency. We benchmark how you use technology. Are your employees engaged? According to some research, 66% of employees are engaged. That means 34% are disengaged. If that applies to your sales force, then you have sales productivity problems. Your team's going through the motions. They aren't aggressively and assertively going out and pushing opportunities into your funnel. Are you using marketing automation, which dramatically increases your top line? How do you use CRM technology? How healthy is your website? And the website health analysis tells us what kind of lead generation tool your website actually has become. Do you have a visitor ID tool attached to your website? If so, how is it producing new leads? Do you utilize video? And most importantly, we expect online calendars to determine the amount of proactive selling your team is doing. Your website must be effective, so we benchmark the number of searches, the length of the sales cycle for new business from your website, how many names are in your CRM system, and we look at all of the technology-related issues to establish that benchmark. One of the things that's very important is your website must present an offer. This could be a white paper, an invitation to a webinar, invitation to a lunch and learn. There are any number of types of different offers, but if you don't have an offer there, you're skipping one of the vital steps of lead generation. You see, there are 4 phases of lead generation. The first is interrupt, and we can do that with cold calls, emails, cold emailing, many different things. But you have to then engage that prospect, and that's where your offer comes in. You'll see 2 acronyms on your screen. One is FUD and one is POM. FUD stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. POM stands for peace of mind. If you are generating FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, your prospects will run away from the current situation. On the other hand, you want to present POM, peace of mind, so they will run towards your offer. A benchmark that's vital is, do you currently have 3 times your annual growth goal worth of new opportunities, new business, new deals identified and in your funnel. We found that companies will consistently produce high quality profits when they maintain the 3X factor. 3 times your annual growth goal should be in your funnel at all times. If it's not, your probability of hitting your growth goal reduces in direct proportion to the reduction of the 3X factor. One of the benchmarks is a service that you can do for yourself. Contact any list broker and ask that list broker to give you a count of the demographically identical names that exist in the geography you wish to pursue. Compare that count to the number of names in your CRM system, and if there is a significant delta, that's your opportunity. My personal experience is most companies are in touch with a very small subset of all of the opportunities that are available in their market. Increase the number of names that are in the database, get in touch with them, and stay in touch is one of the secret sauces that we bake into every client relationship. Now let's design a new process. After we've benchmarked your current situation and we've reviewed our conclusions with you, we will develop a new process for you. The new process will give you visibility that answers the grammatically incorrect question at the top of the page. How was next quarter? Now, we believe that if you know the length of your sales cycle and the conversion ratios from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, etc., then you can, with some degree of predictability, view your future. If you don't know these things, you're always managing to surprises. Your new process must control the number of first meetings that your salespeople will make. Now, we define a first meeting as a phone meeting and or a face-to-face meeting. It doesn't matter. We also want to control the number of dollars per transaction. We want to manage and control the closing ratios. What are the ratios between leads and deals, and how do we improve them? We want to evaluate and control the length of the sales cycle, and most importantly, we want to examine all of the time thieves that tend to creep into every sales organization we've worked with and eliminate any and all of those time wasters. Our research shows that if we improve each of those levers by just 5%, in other words, 5% more first meetings, 5% more dollars per deal, 5% shorter sales cycle, if we improve all of those things by just 5%, in the aggregate, you will realize a 36% increase in your top line. More importantly, that 36% increase will become a permanent component of your business's landscape. Expressed otherwise, the New Math of Sales Excellence, which is a book that I'm about to publish that benchmarks the new way to sell in the 21st century. You see, I've found that the sales process that is utilized by virtually all companies today was first documented in 1873 by the founder of NCR. That was a gentleman by the name of Patterson. Tragically, the sales process hasn't advanced until I developed the New Math of Sales Excellence. It is all about metrics, it's all about math, it's all about process. Control the quantity and quality of activities, and you will control the output of the process. It's just that simple. We also will work with you to create playbooks because we've found that the vast majority of sales forces don't have a playbook. Without a playbook, you're forced to manage your sales team with lagging indicators. Now, the pilots you're looking at in this particular cockpit have instruments that tell them what their future will look like. Do they have enough fuel? What are the winds doing to them? Are they at the right altitude? Any one of a number of leading indicators. The problem with sales, as documented by Patterson way back in 1873, is we always accept lagging indicators. Here's a quick test that I'd like you to apply to your company. Do your sales meetings start with a phrase that sounds something like this? How did we do last week? How did we do last month? How did we do last quarter? If that's the way your meetings start, then you are managing sales with lagging indicators. When you manage sales with leading indicators, you will have a great handle on what your future will look like, just like these pilots, and you'll be able to avoid all of the obstacles that may present themselves on your way to revenue and profit spectacular success. During the process of building the playbooks, we want to make sure that your team has written sales plans. And the sales plans have dates, timetables, and accountabilities built into them. That your playbook is understandable by virtually anybody. Now here's what I mean by a playbook. It's a quick, easy benchmark for you to examine. Let's suppose, hypothetically, that you hired me today to go to work for your company. Is there a book, a manual, a tool that I could take home and read and understand what to say, when to say it, how often to say it, how many calls should I make, how many first meetings should I have? If that book doesn't exist, then I would argue that you aren't really a sales manager, but more you're a sales cheerleader. And most managers today are cheerleaders because they tend to say, hey, we've got to work harder, we've got to work smarter. All they need are the pom-poms and the pleated skirts, and they would be just like the cheerleaders at the side of a football stadium. A core component is to develop the KPIs and the metrics. KPI stands for Key Predictive Indicator. These are the measurements that we apply to controlling our clients' new, repeatable, scalable sales process. Many of our clients retain us long after we've developed the new process to actually run the process for them, to manage the sales team, to coach the team, to recruit, to hire, to train the team. And we do that by applying specific, measurable, achievable, results-oriented, and time-gated metrics. Those metrics are reported to us through employee engagement software that we deploy with each one of our clients, and therefore we're able to determine whether or not each member of the team is working in unison to achieve the goals the team wants. Many of the simple KPIs apply to the sales process. How many targets are in the funnel? How many first meetings has the team logged? How many deals and dollars are at the information phase of the sales process? How many deals and dollars are at what I refer to the decision point? How many deals and dollars did you close? How much time did it take to go from thank you very much for your inquiry to thank you very much for the PO? How many meaningful conversations did you conduct and go to networking events? You see, these KPIs are all part of your sales plan. I've found that when the plan details weekly activities and people are held accountable for achieving those, you'll be very successful. Now, nothing that I'm saying applies to the sales force you're looking at on your screen. This was the first telephone sales force in place in Los Angeles, California, almost 100 years ago. As you can see, their sign says, "Have you a telephone in your home?" In those days, they were selling against nothing, so there was no need to plan other than let's get up and go to work and talk to people about telephones. Today, our competition's so much more intense, we must have a game plan. If you don't have a written plan on how you want to achieve your corporate goals over the next 12 months or over the next 3 years, and if you don't have something in that that helps your salespeople answer the WIIFM, what's in it for me question, if you haven't converted it into metrics that allow people to know what they're supposed to do next week, then all you can be is a cheerleader. You must, if you're selling to large accounts, develop large account plans. In the toolkit, which I promised you earlier, you'll find a template for a large account planning guide. Distribute that to your salespeople who handle these accounts and give them a few days to fill in the guide. If they find it difficult, if not impossible, to answer the questions in the guide, then the key there tells you that you don't know enough about your relationships within that account to be totally comfortable with the future of that. Now, you'll also receive in your toolkit a document called the Initial Plan and a document called the Activity Planner. Now, the Activity Planner converts year-end goals into next week activities. So, first benchmark is I'd like you to know what your year-end shortfall will be, if any. So let's project your year-end position, assuming that you do not change the volume, frequency, or quality of deals that you do between now and the year end. So it's just very simple math. Let's project and say, are we where we want to be at the end of the year? Are we above our target or are we below our target? Once you've established the beginning metric, from that point forward, your virtual sales VP will help you calculate a monthly reprojection, and our goal is to always bring that shortfall back into line. Year-end shortfall projections are vital to managing your sales force in a predictable, profitable fashion. You'll also find in the toolkit a spreadsheet called the Goal Setting and Review Form, GSNR. We use that to maintain weekly contact with each of the salespeople who work for our clients. We want to know what each salesperson plans to do next week, and we want to know how they did against last week's goals last week. This is the foundation for an action plan to help your salespeople improve dramatically. This also allows us to identify the marginal performer. This is the man or woman who needs the most coaching, the most success, support, the most training to help them get to where you want them to be. Tragically, there are some people who can't measure up, and that's okay. They may be very good men and women, but they don't have the DNA for sales, or your industry has changed and what used to work no longer works. In your toolkit, you'll find a win-loss postponed form that will help you identify these issues. Now, one of our breakthroughs that we implement in many of our client companies is a new kind of compensation plan. It's called MBO compensation. What MBO compensation does is it places some of the current salary of a salesperson at risk. That small part of their current salary that we put at risk is then linked to KPIs. A KPI could be the number of first meetings, number of quotes, number of sales calls, number of demos, but they're always metrically measured. This is the function that management frequently gets frustrated over. If you've ever wondered why your salespeople aren't using their CRM system that you spent a lot of money to buy, it's because there's nothing in it for them. When you link performance on the CRM system to their salary, a portion of their salary, I guarantee you compliance will go up dramatically. And the way we develop these plans is that we want to make sure that when the KPIs are achieved, and we only like to manage 4 or 5, no more than 6, if the salesperson achieves all the KPI, their monthly income doesn't change 1 penny. However, if they refuse to use the CRM system, if they can't or won't make enough first meetings, if they can't or won't do what management wants them to do, they essentially are giving themselves a voluntary pay cut. The number one reason for sales failure is we're not there when the prospects want to buy. This problem is cured by implementing BDRs, or business development representatives. A business development representative's primary job is to fill the funnel with qualified, timely prospects. Keep in mind that the Sales Lead Management Association tells us that at any given time in any given market, the average prospect is ready to buy only 3% of the time. So if there are 10,000 prospects in your market, 3% of them are actively seeking a new product, process, or solution. The other 97% need to be nurtured until they're ready to buy. So the BDR runs a concept called closed-loop marketing. Closed-loop marketing, according to the Aberdeen Research Group, dramatically improves the top line of companies. Unfortunately, most companies expect their salespeople to run it, and they don't have the time, the bandwidth, in some cases, the inclination to run a closed-loop system. So the BDR reaches out and manages that system, which maintains perpetual contact with all demographically desirable opportunities all of the time. Now, closed-loop marketing works because of the report that was done by the Dartnell Sales Institute. This slide represents their study. They surveyed hundreds of salespeople in hundreds of different companies, and they found that 50% of salespeople abandon their effort to get a new account after one contact. If you look a little further down the screen, you'll see after contact number 4, 90% of salespeople have quit. Unfortunately, according to this study, the customers aren't ready to buy until the 7th, 8th, or 9th contact. It's vital that you have a closed-loop marketing system that will stay in touch with the customer, touching them repetitively with emails, with action items, with printed documents. But the key here is get in touch and stay in touch. The business development representative frequently can be a college intern or a young person that you're looking to groom and bring into your company. He or she will work part or full-time calling prospects and profiling the prospect. They will manage the closed-loop marketing system, add names to the database, and create relationships that will serve your company well into the future. They are a high-volume operation, and I want to urge that you understand these people are not to sell. They can invite people to webinars, but they can't sell your product. We don't want them to sell. We want them to build your list. Speaking of your list, take a look at your current marketing database. Are there typographical errors in there? If so, you can't use it. Do we have any stagnant contacts? A stagnant contact is someone who is in your database but has not been contacted in more than 4 months. Part of our job as a virtual sales VP is to bring new training to your class. We have several new courses. I mentioned one a moment ago called The New Math of Sales Excellence. We also have a role-play scenario-based course called Buyer's Side Selling, which helps salespeople understand how buyers react to their strategies and tactics. As your virtual sales VP, we will conduct sales practice with your team every 2 weeks. We encourage peer advice and brainstorming. Now, the real secret sauce to getting the dramatic improvement that we always produce is employee engagement software. This software is not a CRM system, but the way it works is once a week it will send a reminder to every salesperson and ask him or her to communicate with the virtual sales VP and with you through this system regarding their activities and achievements. This provides both you and your sales VP 20/20 visibility on the quantity and quality of activities. It lets us know which of your salespeople are actually pursuing the results that we want versus which salespeople are engaged in an activity that I euphemistically call smiling you to death. You know what I'm talking about. These are the guys and gals that say, hey boss, that was a great idea, we'll do that, but it never gets done. The software tracks trends, produces reports, and it enables you and your sales VP to have meaningful dialogues about action items, as opposed to forcing everyone to become a cheerleader. Now, we believe that everybody in your company sells or unsells an account. So this employee engagement software is assigned to everybody in your company that has what we refer to as a customer-facing role. Do they have the opportunity to talk to customers? Remember, according to many studies, 66 to 84% of employees are disengaged. And many times, that disengaged non-sales administrative person actually functions like a sales prevention unit. And that person costs you much more than their salary. We also, as a virtual sales VP, again, we do everything a VP does except show up and cost you an arm and leg. We will help you identify the type of salespeople you need to hire. We'll interview them, and we'll screen them for attributes. Hunters are the men and women who you need to grow your business. Harvesters are the men and women who take care of existing accounts. We will develop a sales simulation interview utilizing the templates that are in your toolkit. You see, we have found that there is an inverse correlation between one's sales ability and one's interviewing ability. Tragically, the people who look for sales jobs frequently are looking for sales jobs frequently because they have been fired. They look good, they walk well, they speak well, they're charming, they're engaging, and entrepreneurs hire them, keep them for 6 months, and then let them go, and we go back and do the same thing. If that sounds familiar, you really need a virtual sales VP to run my sales simulation interviewing technique. This allows us to really see how they behave. We don't care what the resume says, and we don't really care what they say. What we care about is their behavior. So we simulate a selling environment through multiple calls or interviews, and we observe. We always use the DISC and the Sales IQ pre-employment test, and you can see samples of these on my website, gilcargill.com. It's listed at the bottom of the page, but you can go to the Assessments tab and take a look at it. You see, we realize that selling styles are innate. There are men and women who are great stimulus response salespeople. They pitch, they're feature preachers, and they close. The consultative salespeople solve business problems by applying your product and your service to a client's unique situation. Commodity salespeople sell based on price and availability, and relationship salespeople have to manage 4 or 5 relationships to bring a new account on board, and retail salespeople wait for the customer to order. One of the things that you'll find in the toolkit is a sample transition plan. I call it a ramp-up plan. And what we do is we present this to the candidate before they get a job offer, and it details your expectations in terms of activity for the first 12 to 18 weeks. I recently presented one of these to an applicant for one of my clients, and the applicant looked at it and he said, "Wow, this looks like a lot of work." And that's when I realized that he really wanted to apply for a vacation, not for a job. But I wanted to know, long before he was an employee of my clients, that what we deemed as a minimum level of activity was, from his point of view, quote, a lot of work. Have all of your applicants write a 100-day plan before you offer them a job. This lets you see how they think. I want the plan to basically spell out what they need from us and what they will commit to doing in the first 100 days of their relationship with my client. Once you have new customers on board, you have to have a plan to retain them. As I mentioned before, there's a large account plan in the toolkit. Print it out and hand it out to your people. And make sure that you have a top-to-top marketing program. I want you, as the leader of your sales team, to have regular scheduled meetings with the highest level executives in your customer companies that you can possibly reach. These must be strategic. They cannot be sales calls. Well, gang, that's what you need to do to build a world-class sales force. That's what you need to do to avoid the mistakes that I've seen CEOs make through the course of well over 700 Vistage talks. If you'd like to talk about how a virtual VP can help you drive your top and bottom line, feel free to call me at 310-447-4102. Or you can schedule a complimentary consultation by sending an email to gil@gilcargill.com. Thank you very much for your time and your attention, and as always, I wish you good luck and good selling.